Good afternoon, friends. Today we have live on our show a very, very special guest. I'm happy to welcome Ms Renu Karnad Sood, Managing Director at HDFC. I want to take a couple of minutes for an introduction here. And bear with me, she's a very accomplished person. So this introduction might take some time.
No,
Renu
please.
Karnad Renu Khanna joined HDFC in 1978. She was inducted onto its board in 2000. She became the joint managing director in 2007 and was elevated to managing director in 2010. And here's what's interesting. Under Ms. Karnad's leadership, HDFC today assists 7 million families. You heard that right, 7 million families in terms of managing their home. And Bank Bazaar Expert Speak is a unique opportunity to hear directly from the industry leader in terms of how to manage your personal finance. Now, besides being on the board of several HDFC group companies, Renu Kannad is also on the board for ABB, Bosch, Maruti Suzuki India, and others. She is a Parvin Fellow at the Woodrow Wilson School of International Affairs at Princeton University. She has been in Business Today magazine's list of most powerful women in Indian business for 7 years after 2012. And in 2013, she was inducted into their Hall of Fame. In 2006, Wall Street Journal judged her amongst the top 10 most powerful women to watch out for in Asia. Ms. Renu Kannad, welcome to our discussion.
Thank you so much, Adil, and thank you for telling everybody my age. Okay, thanks a lot. Just joking. It's a great pleasure being here. I'm really, Adil and our relationship goes back really when Adil was just starting, and he's done a fabulous job, and both of us have gained through this relationship. So thank you so much, Adil, and I really think the product that we sell and the product that you help us together to get out and distribute to people. I think it's such a fabulous product that I don't think I've had anything to do with it. It's the team, it's the fact that housing is a great need in our country. The shortage is so much. And as soon as people get a job and their first car, then they think of buying a house. So, as the economy was doing well, people had the money to go and now spend money on housing. So we did well and we grew, and so that's really the story of how it happened. And I have a fabulous team, and together we are able to do what we do.
Fantastic. Now, you've successfully led teams, obviously, and businesses through multiple recessions. This is not the first one that you're seeing. What kind of advice can you give to both borrowers and to bankers in handling this COVID crisis?
I think, one of the first thing that I would tell bankers would be that you have to worry about your customer and you have to make sure that when anything like this happens, which basically there is a fear psychosis in this one, you're worried about your job, you're worried about your health, it's never ever happened before. I think the first thing you need to do is to be available. You should be there where people can talk to you and they can, whether you're able to do what they ask you, that's a different issue. But are you available? I think it's so important that you can, in whatever way, defray the customer nerves or the customer's nervousness, that they're going through. That's so important. And very honestly, if you look at this COVID period, I don't think even we were able to do that, even though I'm saying what I'm saying. But it took us it took us a couple of weeks to get our act together, to get out of a shock that we ourselves were in, that, what do you do now? The government has clamped everything. And so it took us, but I think we recovered very quickly. Fortunately for us, it's a thing that I'm going to say, which is this doesn't always is the best thing that happened. But we had the systems, but we were not using them. People were so used to using, people calling up. It was more touch and feel business. That digital bit was available, but was never used to the hilt. But that really helped us. Therefore, we were able to scramble, and within 2 weeks, we were up and about. and being available for the customer. I think that is one of the most important things, Adil, that you need to be there so that there is somebody who can talk to you. So staying connected with, and similarly for us, our customer is not only the borrower, our customer is also the developer. The developers were panicking because people were not wanting to pay, and rightly so. And the developers needed the money to continue with construction. So, what is the role that we could play between the developer and some of the construction finance that we do, knowingly, understandingly that things might get worse, but does it make sense for us to release some small money so his construction continues? This was right in the beginning. In the beginning, everybody thought it was a bad dream and it's going to go away. Nobody realized that it's going to last 6 months and even more, as we are seeing. So I think that is one of the most important things that you need to do, is to be available, to be able to talk. People should know who to talk to. I really think at that time, one shouldn't think of market share. I really think at that time, whatever the market share is, even if you lose some, you'll get it back. If your product is worth its salt, if your service is very good, if you're fair, that is most important. If you're fair, and it's in these troubling times that you can make a distinction between an organization which is fair and an organization which is a strong organization compared to the newbies who may come in, who close doors. I mean, things go bad, you just close the door. I'm sorry, I can't do any more. I mean, that's the distinction that the customer should make going forward. And I think that is where I think we came out very well. We were there both for the developers and for the customers. But I think market share was the last thing on our mind for the first 2 months. Your people are very important, your employees. Everybody worries about their employees. I'm sure I'm not saying anything different. But how do you keep their morale up? How often do you talk to them? How often are the senior people interacting with the next line? That was so important. Like in our organization, for the first few months, we were literally every morning, and I think a lot of people did that. We are not unusual, but we still continue to do that because you had to be in touch with, you had to press so many buttons. You needed to know what the technical guy was doing. All of a sudden, all technical appraisal stopped, right? So you had to be there. So you had to have this one leader who was really the orchestra master, but making sure that everybody was doing what they were doing. So I think employees is a very important thing that you really need to look at. And I think the most important thing, if you ask me, in any situation, keep a control on your costs. When you think business is not going to come in and there's going to be problem on cash flows going forward, by cash flows I mean revenues going forward, I think the most important thing you need to do is, where can I save today? Let me be careful, let me be prudent, let me make sure that every penny saved will most probably mean that I'll be able to be up and about and running much faster. I think these are some of the few things I would say.
Makes sense. Now, we're 6 months into this COVID pandemic. We're all trying to understand what the next 6 months are going to look like. Can you tell us, looking at such a large number of consumers on your side, what do you see happening in terms of demand for homes and demand for loans in the next 6 months of this financial year?
So, I can't give you numbers because, we are now in the sort of a closed period because, quarter end is there. So don't ask me for numbers. All I can say is that every month that goes by, we are seeing the business coming back. We are seeing, I can talk about April was a washout, May was small, June, we ended up doing about 65% of what we would have normally done. And as every month goes by, we are seeing that happen. What I hear from builders also is that, and as I was discussing with you earlier in the morning, that the inquiries have gone up. Inquiries in terms of people not only inquiring for home loans, but also at builder sites, they are seeing people come in. Some builders are actually talking about, that's only, of course, not that many. They're having from April to July, he sold something like 380 units. And of course, it's one of the better builders, but his product was the right size. It was the middle income product. So if you ask me, my prognosis will be that by end of this financial year, which means the last quarter of this financial year, I think we should see a whole lot of normalcy come back. Only problem, I think the only joker in the pack would be if we get the COVID back in full force. You're seeing it come up in small, but it's still in pockets. But if a national lockdown happens, which I think they won't do unless things get very bad, because they have understood that beyond a certain time, a lockdown is counterproductive. But otherwise, I think we should see some normalcy, certainly by the first quarter of the next financial year.
And HDFC has got a lot of press coverage that you approved nearly 50,000 crores of affordable home loans during the lockdown. Is that a segment that is going to keep growing in the future?
Yes, I think so. I think the press thing that you're talking about was more linked to the fact that we've done 200,000, 2 lakh units under the CLSS scheme, the credit linked subsidy scheme. I'm not sure whether everybody understands what the scheme is, so I'll just take a few seconds on the scheme. Under this scheme, the government is giving a subsidy of some between 2.3 lakhs to 2.6 lakhs based on certain income criteria and based on certain size of the property criteria for first time home buyers. I think it is a scheme that it's really not been publicized so much as it should be by the government. But we have done 200,000 of loans under that scheme over the last 2.5 years. And so anybody who's on your circuit, who's looking at it, who falls within the parameters of the scheme, they should just go to the government site, PMAY, and understand what the scheme is. It works wonderfully, smoothly. Yeah, sometimes they take some time for the government to disburse the money, but eventually you will get the money. So, if you're talking of a loan of 50 lakhs, a house cost of 50 lakhs, you're going to get 2.5 lakhs as equity from the government. This is a grant. And it is something, and it's practically available across the country. There's hardly any area other than rural areas. So it is something that I think people should try and make use of as far as possible.
Yeah, 2.5 lakhs in equity from the government is a big amount.
Very,
So whoever can
yeah,
make use of it should
yes.
do so. On that note, right, let's start talking about some of the recent products out there. So I noticed that you're strongly encouraging, and I see this as soon as I go to the hdfc.com site, people who made use of the moratorium to pay back a lump sum to try and catch up with the interest that's built up. Now, this is something we've been strongly advocating at Bank Bazaar, saying if you made use of the moratorium and now your cash flow is back, try and make a bullet payment of 1.2 times of what you skipped. Are people making this bullet payment because otherwise they're going to pay a lot more tenors at the end of their loan?
Yeah, so it's a little premature. Maybe if you ask me this question in next month, we'll know better. We are, people are, just this morning we were talking, we are seeing people who took a moratorium come and pay the loan. I think one of the problems has also been, Adil, this whole Supreme Court saga, where this interest on interest issue, people are hoping that if the Supreme Court mandate actually goes through, then we'd be a fool by paying back. I think once the decision is clear on what the decision there is, even it was listed for today, but my information was this morning that they have postponed it and they've asked for more time, and now it's going to be on the 5th of October. It's only after that result comes out, Adil, will really know what people want to do and how people are going to approach it. It's a little premature.
Fair enough, but I think it's very clear if you can make a bullet payment to try and catch up with
Abs-
the.
Absolutely, irrespective. Because, at the end of the day, you're just adding to your debt. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. If you have the money, you should come and pay back, because unnecessarily at it's getting capitalized, and you're going to be now paying it over a much longer time, So, just the sheer time value, if you're looking at it, you're unnecessarily increasing your indebtedness. So, frankly, if you ask me, Adil, though it goes against the grain of my business that I don't want prepayments, but I am always of the advocate. If you have spare money and you want to do a part prepayment, it does make sense. You must keep your loan up to the point that you can get your tax benefit, but that the amounts are small. I mean, I'm talking about mid to high level loans. And thereafter, if you can, this is one asset, which makes a lot of sense to keep it as low in debt as possible.
Right. Now, let's talk about the multiple categories of home loan borrowers who might be listening. So, for new borrowers, you have right now, and we'll see what happens next month, but you have a monsoon bonanza running. This is at 6.9%. There's a special discount when a woman is a co-owner and a co-applicant, and also
Yeah.
basis your credit score. Tell us a little bit
Yes.
about the monsoon bonanza, because
Okay. Okay.
new rates are at the lowest they've been in a decade right
Ab-
now.
Absolutely. Adil, this is the right time to buy a house. Honestly, I think it won't be sweeter than this. Interest rates are the lowest. I think in my memory, I've never seen such low interest rates. Developers are willing to talk. Of course, they're not dropping rates or anything. But if you are a serious buyer and you go to a developer, he's willing to negotiate to a much farther extent than they did in the past. Okay, stamp duty has come down, particularly all of Maharashtra. Stamp duty has come down to 2%. My gut feel is they are waiting and watching. Even Haryana and some of the other places are going to do that. So this is really the right time to buy. Coming back to the monsoon bonanza, it is if you have a credit score of more than 750, if you have a woman borrower with you, you can get a rate of 6.9, and which is another 5 basis points below what we've announced. So that is the thing. It is on till the 31st, till the 30th of September, but I think we will extend it.
Interesting. And I think it's very nice to see a reward for a good credit score. I think this is something we've been telling consumers, that make sure your credit score is above 750, because it's going to become more and more important. Now, secondly, let's talk about existing borrowers who are thinking of refinance. Now, April 2019, repo was cut to 6%. Today, it's at 4%. Are you seeing demand for refinance of home loans picking up during this COVID lockdown?
Not that much, not so much in
Mm,
particular.
mm,
The refinance, has come up by, I mean, it has gone up by maybe. See, our prepayments really haven't gone up that much.
mm.
Some bit, yes, but I think the refinance would have gone up by a percentage or so, nothing more than that as yet. You also know we have a conversion where you can convert the rate if you were on a higher rate. Basically, a lot of people want to refinance Adil because they think there's a better rate at the other end. So they're also based, of course, on the credit profile. We have some of the best rates. We have the most competitive rates. So if you've been a good customer with us and you've been paying, or many companies have this. I mean, banks also have the same thing. But we are matching the best of rates in the market. I don't want to take names of competition. But I think if you're a customer whose credit score is, again, it's risk based, is good, you will get the best rate in the market by converting your loan.
Fair enough. And I think one pointer we're giving people is, if you do choose to either refinance or convert, try and maintain your old EMI, because not only will you get the benefit of the lower prevailing rate, but by doing the same EMI, you can get a double benefit of a lower tenor
Yeah,
also.
absolutely.
So that's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
small,
yeah.
small, small tip. Now,
Though,
lastly,
though having
go
said
ahead.
that, Adit, we generally the default option is that for us.
Hmm,
But if for whatever reason, like these times, and
hmm,
somebody had a spouse who was working and the spouse has lost the job, or
hmm.
there has been some other stress, we do have the option of also keeping the tenor the same and reducing the EMI. But by and large, I would, if I was advising them, I'd say the same. But I just wanted to say the option exists.
Fair enough. So if you've seen a reduction in income, or one person in the family losing a job, then maybe the
Yeah,
lower EMI works. on
Yes,
the conversion. But otherwise, if you have the capacity by paying the same EMI, you can reduce your tenor outstanding.
10.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
yeah,
Now,
yeah.
going to the last category. Now, these are people who are facing financial hardship and are thinking about restructuring. Again, I know everything is hot off the press. It's very, very early days, but do you see restructuring being something that is going to be used by consumers given the current economic environment?
So very honestly, my very concern will be more on being misused. As far as
Mhm,
used, they'll
mhm,
definitely, and the government and RBI have given a very good scheme. It is the need of the hour. You know, certain sectors have been so badly hit. You don't want people to lose their homes because if they don't allow restructuring and it becomes an NPA, then you have to do what you have to do. Okay, you're also running a business, but I think it's a fabulous thing that the government has done to help people to continue with their home ownership. So I think there they should be sensible. If you asked me, again there is a cost to it. It's not
mhm,
that it's without cost, and but wherever. But also another message I wanted to give here was that it's not a right. You know, unlike a moratorium where there was more flexibility here, there are conditions for his adil. Just anybody can't get it. It has to be COVID related. Everybody must understand that. It's not a panacea that you can just go and make use of it. You cannot be more than 30 days outstanding on 1st of March. You know, these two things are so important because if either of these are not, not going to be there, we cannot give it. And if we were to give it, if any institution was to give it, the chances are that the regulator is going to say, no, this is a rescheduled loan, please declare it as an NPA, right? So you will see a lot of pushback from banks and pushback from financial institutions if these, they will not do it. I mean, or very honestly, they're not allowed to do it. I think that's very important. If on your Bank Bazaar site, if you have any section which is like where you're advising, you must tell them not to waste their time and the bank's time. So that is important. Then thereafter, they're going to be hotel people working in hotels, people in the airline sector, tourism, even to some bit in real estate, where they genuinely been hurt. I think those people should come forward and should take benefit of this restructuring because it's going to be good for them, for the economy also, because nobody wants so many NPAs in the economy. But use from a lender point of view, we are going to be very certain that we follow the RBI regulations to the T, and we have to be convinced that actually, so assume for a minute all those were there and there was some effect, but we have to be convinced that this effect is going to be a long-term effect, and therefore there is a very valid rationale for us to allow a restructuring. So I think there could be a situation where we will may end up turning down some. But I personally, if you ask me, from what I see and the people who are coming on our site right now and the calls we are getting, again, Adil, it's a little premature. Maybe next month we'll have a better. I don't think it's so high. It's still very. I mean, I've been talking to some other banks also. I think the State Bank a person, chairman, I think, if I'm not mistaken, made a statement that about this was about a week ago, of course, that they had only got in thousands the requests that had come. I think this is going to be lesser. It's going to be, people will be more sensible about it because the effect on you is going to be for much longer. Because you're talking about 2 years now. If you're going to look at 2 years, so let's say I don't think it's going to be a very big number that we'll end up doing. But
right,
yes,
right.
having said that, if somebody deserves it and has been hurt, we will definitely want to work with them.
Fair enough, fair enough. So I think that was interesting for two reasons. One, it's an absolute, absolute last resort. It's not a right. There is a cost attached to taking that 2 year extension. Don't use it unless you have been seriously affected and you can prove it due to COVID. And secondly, I think it was really nice to directly hear from you, from a managing director of the largest mortgage lender, on how consumers should be thinking about it. So thanks for sharing your thoughts on such a topical issue. Now we're going to go to the next set of questions, and this is about digital strategy and online. Now, 7 million families you've enabled to buy a home. You've seen this over decades, right? What exactly is the role of digital? And you've been a front runner in putting money and budget behind building your digital presence. Just talk to us about the role of digital in home loans.
So, very honestly, it's a the role is going to be even more important going forward. Um, what we've realized is that the reach out, the distribution of loans that can be done digitally, which you started, Adil, and I must congratulate you for that. We really haven't done as much as we could do. You don't have to have that many offices anymore. You don't need to have, you can reach out to people in areas where, the back or beyond. For example, people who are working in tea gardens, people who are working in oil fields, people who are working on oil rigs, right? So the people who are working in other countries who want back homes to buy homes back in India. It's a fantastic. We all know that. We all use it day in and day out. It's such a wonderful tool to reach out and to be able to talk to your could be customers and advise them and counsel them through the digital mode. It takes time in the beginning for people to understand, because I think, especially in India, just typing everything, putting into a cell phone, and most of these are very, very consumer friendly, and so they're all on handheld devices. So people sort of halfway that they're there, they sort of lose steam. So you need to have teams who are there. With all of you have, where they nudge them into completing an application, help them how to scan it, help them how to upload it. But I think from what we experienced, Adil, in April, where whatever business we got, and it wasn't that small, 95% of them had come through the digital mode.
Wow.
As we speak now, yes, it's changing. The leads that are coming have been digital for very long. You know that, for very, very long. But now completion of the application, filling the application, uh, it was so good, the 2 months that we were closed. But as things are getting open, it's coming down a bit. I think it's just that we need to push people. We need to push even our feet on street, our channel partners. I think they also need to understand the benefit of it in terms of time, in terms of cost. Also, other, let's face it, in the last 1 or 2 years, the amount of changes that have come in this system for us, things like being able to pull a tax return, being able to pull a salary slip, or to be able to also your balance sheets and your accounts. I think all those things have actually come at the right time for us to be able to use it very well. The only weak link, if you ask me right now, in a full digital experience, I think is legal, because even in terms of what we call technical visits, even that we can do with the help of cameras, with the help of Google Earth, with the help of many other apps which can tell you what sort of costs have already been incurred. But on the legal bit, I think that is still not as one. Of course, as you know, you still require wet signatures. If you have to create a mortgage, you still require a wet signature if you have to go and buy a property, except I think in Maharashtra and I think one more state where they were allowed the dry signatures. So, or digital signatures. I think once that happens in place, then the full digital journey can go through. But having said that, on the title checks still need to be, done by somebody. Needs to go and find out what happened to the title. I'm not talking only apartments. Okay, apartments are much easier to do, because once you've done a legal check on a building, you don't need to do it. I'm talking about new builders coming in, and I'm talking about properties which are built. Those checks still need to be done. I think it'll take a few years before we reach that level, because a lot of it has got to do with how digitally enabled are the states as far as their property records, etc., are concerned. But a lot has happened. I believe me, doing a digital application today is 95% there.
Fair enough. So, just two quick follow on questions. Now, you have branches all over the country. Would you say that people are finishing their research online, then deciding, and then coming offline? Is that happening at all? Question number one. Question number two, like you said, the legal part is offline. Do you think a day will come in this decade wherein that entire process will also be digital? The reason I ask is today a credit card or a personal loan is done via video KYC. So the bank doesn't meet the consumer, it happens in minutes. Could that happen in India for home loans?
I think sometime. I think it's going to be sometime. I'll tell you why it's going to be sometime. The whole architecture behind the property is very, very important. What is the builder like? Did he complete his last project? How long did he take? What is track record? Yes, over time you'll find these things where his last project in Mathura, or he overdid it by 1 year, 5 years. That sort of information has to be there for you to understand what this builder is all about. And that you can only find out if you talk to neighbors, you talk to others. It can't be completely on the digital space. Then again, as I said, title documents. Honestly, unfortunately, yeah, fraudsters are smarter and they're more than the regular guys. You actually need to see the document. You can't see a scanned copy, Adil, today and do a deal. I would tell everybody here that if you're doing a resale, for example, Adil wants to sell Renu a house, and Adil shows me his documents and sends me a scanned copy. No, 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 not just now. Unless unless of course that the whole mortgage registry works like clockwork. So when you go there and you say, no, this has already been sold or this has already been mortgaged, unless all that comes in place, I think a lot needs to be done there. We are completely there as far as sanctioning is concerned. First of all, as far as distribution is concerned, as far as sanctioning is concerned, I think it's, as I said again, to repeat myself, the legal piece. And I think that not this decade, you mean 2030? Yes, maybe. But if you ask me, in next 3-4 years, no.
Okay. Okay. So, Ms. Karnad, it's been a pleasure chatting and learning from you. Unfortunately, being a short 30-minute discussion, we're out of time, and I know that you have a big RBI meeting today. So, my last question to you, right, is also on a personal side. As we face this COVID challenge, I think everyone is facing it in their own way with as much self belief as they can. My question to you is, what advice do you give your children in terms of how to deal with this stage of their lives?
Uh, so that's my advice for anything. If they ever have any difficult situation they're in, I always tell them this too shall pass. And I am very, very hopeful about our future. I'm very positive and optimistic on India, for my own business, our own business here. So for my children, I keep telling them one is never, 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 never give up. And I never do personally. So there's always a way out. And I always say have backup. I'm a huge believer on having plan B if plan A doesn't work. That's it.
Thank you
I just
so
want to
much.
correct one thing, Adil, because I don't know who from LinkedIn is where on this. I just want to say I'm no longer on the board of Bosch. I'm no longer on the board of Maruti. Huh? Because there's some employees of Maruti and Bosch, and what the hell is she saying? So I've gotten off those boards a few years ago. So you may most probably have my earlier bio of mine.
Thank you for that correction. I think
Okay.
it's been
Yeah.
an absolute pleasure chatting with you. I think for our viewers, you heard it directly from the managing director at HDFC Limited. You learned about what the new loan offers were. We spoke about what is available in terms of converting and refinance. We spoke about what the outlook is and why this is the perfect time if you're a youngster out there thinking about a home. This is a time to move. Thank you so much for your time. And
Absolutely. I just have to reiterate that it's the best time to buy a house, not because I work for a housing finance company. Don't come to me for a loan. But if you want to buy a house, look at it seriously. Thank you.
thank you.
Adil, thank you
Thank you,
so much.
sir.
It's always a pleasure talking to you. Yeah. Take care,
Goodbye.
everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy. Bye.
Thank
Take care.
you. Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye.